Today is April 20th, 2022. My name is Roberta Douglas, and I will be interviewing Dick and Barbara Tortorelli at the Milford High School Applied Technology Center for the Milford Historical Society's Oral History Program. Before we start, I need to ask Dick and Barbara, do I have your permission to record this interview and make it available to those interested via the Milford Historical Society?
You do.
Yes.
We are interested in stories you can tell us about your past here in Milford. This will be an informal conversation about, quote, the old days. We believe those of you who have lived through many decades have much valuable information we would not find elsewhere, and I look forward to our conversation. These questions I will be asking are for both of you. The first question I'd like to ask you is, please tell me your name, your birth date, where you were born, and how long you lived in Milford.
Richard Tortorelli, born March 8th, 1937.
How
Been
long
here
did
all my life.
And I'm Barb Tortorelli. I was born on October 31st, 1942. And I graduated from Milford High School, left Milford, and came back.
I'm looking to learn about your experiences growing up in a rural community and any special stories you have to tell. Could you give me your parents' names and their occupations?
My mother's name was Eleanor Cutts. She married my father, Arthur Maynard. My father was a chef. He started off as a chef at Grenier Air Force Base, which is now the Manchester-Boston Regional Airport. My mother worked at Textron, which was in the old brick school, and then she went to work for OK2.
Dick, what were your parents?
My mother was Verly Tortorelli. Her maiden name was Kirby, and she married my father, Philip Tortorelli. And my mother worked as a beautician in Nashua. And she did that all her career.
And what
My
were your,
father was a truck driver.
and what were your parents like?
Wonderful people.
Very good.
Did you have any favorite relatives?
My grandfather, John J. Kirby, he was postmaster in Milford from 1935 until 1960. And wonderful man.
Do you remember any special stories that he ever told you?
My grandfather, before postmaster, he worked for the B&M Railroad, and he told me about 35 trains per day went through this town in the 1920s and 30s.
How
And
about
you're
you?
lucky to see one every 2 weeks now.
How about Barbara?
Well, I think my favorite relatives were my aunt and uncle. They lived in Massachusetts, but they were like second parents to me, especially my uncle.
Did either of you have siblings?
Yes. I have, excuse me, I have a sister, and I have a daughter.
And I have no siblings.
During your childhood, where did you live?
Lived on Lincoln Street, right downtown Milford, and grew up there at 7 Lincoln Street. I was there until I was in my 20s, and then I bought a house next door and refurbed it, got married and moved in there.
And I grew up on South Street, just beyond the DPW, where the electric supply company is now. My grandfather built a house there, and we lived with my grandparents up there. And when my mother passed away, nobody in the family wanted the house, so we sold it to Electric Supply. and my husband burned it down. They gave it to the fire department as a drill. So
What do you recall most vividly about your childhood?
I don't know, going down to Milford Department of Waterworks. It used to be called the pumping station, and the swimming hole was out back where the dam is. That was Milford's public swimming hole where I learned to swim. And I used to roller skate on top of the in-ground wells from the pumping station.
Dick?
Well, I had a lot of buddies, and we used to hang out downtown in the Oval. There was only 5,000 people in the town, and we knew everybody. And we used to hang out there until the street lights came on. I had to be home when the street lights came on. Otherwise, somebody was coming to get me, my mother.
And I had to be home by 8 o'clock.
What did you and your siblings do in your spare time?
Well, we had a bunch of us guys got together and we built these little cots with anything we could find. We had a board with wheels on it, and we steered it with ropes, and we'd go up on Webster Street and Prospect Street where it's steep, and we'd have races down the hill. There were very few cars. We used to have to watch out for a horse once in a while.
Okay, Dick, I would like to learn a little bit about growing up in Milford. Did you have a nickname?
Just Dick.
Dick, okay. Did you enjoy school?
No.
What were your best memories of grade school and high school?
Trying to skip classes as much as I could.
How about you, Bob? Did you have a nickname?
I did, Toots,
Did you enjoy school?
very much.
Do you have any really best memories of high school or grade school?
Nothing that stands out, really. I just enjoyed everything.
Were either you in any extracurricular activities such as sports or theater?
I wasn't into sports, but I was into hanging out with the boys and trying to get into trouble.
I wasn't into sports either. I was too short to be anything, but I was the assistant manager of the basketball team, which meant that I got to wash the basketballs after the games.
Are you still friends with any of your schoolmates from that time in your life?
Yes, I try to be
Yes, and
in touch with all of them, and
Do you go to school reunions?
we do have reunions and get together every 5 years or so, but now that we're all in our 80s, we decided not to have any more because some people just can't make it, so.
and I get together with my classmates. We have lunch together often, and I'm on the school reunion committee, we're planning another reunion for this summer to celebrate our 80th birthday.
What was your first job? And how old were you and how did you get it?
Well, when I was 15, I was packing bags at the A&P store, and I did that, stocking shelves until graduation in 1956, and then I went to work for the A&P full-time as a meat cutter, and I was there for 6 years before I moved on to another grocery store, and stayed there a couple of years, and then I moved on to Hendricks Wire and Cable for 20 years.
How about you, Barbara?
And my first job was at Golden's 5 and Dime which was in the shopping center across from Granite Town Plaza, back when there was the first National up there. And my second job that was when I was in high school. My second job was after I graduated from high school. I was a lifeguard at the pool for a year. Then I went off to school.
When did you leave home?
When I bought my own house next door to where I grew up, let's see, I was 21 when I left home and started remodeling that house and moved into it.
And I left home when I was 17 to go off to college. Couldn't wait to get out of Milford.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Fisher Junior College at the time in Boston, which is right on Beacon Street, next between Arlington and Berkeley. It's now Fisher College, but when I went, it was a junior college to become a legal secretary.
Do you have any children?
I have a daughter from my first marriage.
And I have none.
A little bit about hometown. Do you, were there any special activities or festivals at different times of the year?
Well, they always had a Labor Day parade and Memorial Day parade. Fireworks on the 4th of July. The 4th of July was always a big carnival in town with bonfires and fireworks.
And the carnival was right next to the Bale School.
It was actually where the Jock School sits today.
Yeah.
What do you like best about that time?
The good times we had with all the guys, we were pretty tight, and we would try not to get in trouble, but we had a lot of fun. A lot of fireworks back in those days.
What do you miss most about the way it used to be?
Well, there used to be 5,000 people at that time in this town. Now there's 18,000. So
Miss the small town and
it
knowing
changed
everybody.
a lot.
Is there any significant historical event that has taken place during your lifetime that affected you in some way?
I can't think of anything.
Well, I did a hitch in the Army and the National Guard, so that was a growing up experience. But I think I did better after I got out of there. I knew what I wanted to do, and I did it. I became the town's fire chief, and the first full-time fire chief, and I worked that job for 13 years as chief, 40 years total on the fire department.
Was it all volunteer?
It was volunteer when I when I started my career, and for the first 5 years of my full-time position, it was just myself, and along with the call people. And eventually they gave me another full-time captain to work with me and do the inspections. And then at this time it is 5 full-time people, and the backup people are the call people.
Barb, did you have any historical event that affected you?
No, I really don't recall any events.
What was the happiest moment in your life?
Well, the happiest moment, I think, was when I met Barbara.
How about you, Barbara?
Well, I guess I'll have to say the same.
What was the most important lessons that you've learned in life?
To work hard, make sure you do have a job. And I've never been without a job. You always plan ahead and make sure you plan for the future. Because when you get older, like us, you can't live on Social Security. You've got to make plans for the future, so financial plans.
And the rate we're going, there's not going to be any Social Security left. We're spending it all.
Can you have anything to add to that, Barb?
Well, working hard and just enjoying life.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to add? Any stories that you have? I know you, Dick.
I think that back when we were in the 1950s, we all had a car of some kind, mostly a bunch of junk, but we would gather together at the Oval, and there was always one cop on duty, and whenever he left the Oval area, we would direct traffic the opposite direction. You know? And when he came back, everything was straightened out and going the right way. As soon as he left again, we'd turn the cars around and go on the other way.
Just a little fun?
Just for fun, and we didn't cause any problems. So we like to, every once in a while we'd drive across the swinging bridge. That's why there's posts there today, so nobody can do that. So
I guess from that, I was an angel. I don't really recall. I mean, we all had good times. I got stopped on the Oval for dragging once, but he just let me go. Told me not to do it again.
I want to tell you a little bit about the downtown area back in the 50s and 60s. There was, with Peter Carroll apartment building sits today right next to on the bridge where Great Brook runs under the road. That's Railroad Pond that feeds that, and there was Hicks Jewelry Store in there, and there was Bernie's fabrics in there, and then there was Savage's Clothing and Army and Navy Store, and then there was the A&P grocery store, and then there was a woman's clothing store, and then there was the Latches movie theater, and then there was the First National store.
5 and 10?
Yeah, you forgot Woolworths.
Woolworths was there also, yeah. And beyond that was where the barber shop sits. That's always been a barber shop, right there next to Pasta Loft today. And then you had another clothing store, female clothing store. Then you had the public service store. And then you had the Dyer's drugstore. Then you had Darling Card and Gift Store. And now was at South in Union Square, there was a newspaper stand there and Boston Shoe Store and another barber shop.
Philbrick's Restaurant.
Philbrick's Restaurant and
People's Market.
People's Market was
Milford,
beside that.
Milford Cooperative Bank.
And Milford Cooperative Bank. And then you go across the street to Nashua Street and you got Louis,
Variety.
Variety, which was
the
in the town hall building. And then you come up a little bit, you got Sahegan National Bank, and then you have
Aubuchon's.
Mike's Groceries and Aubuchon Hardware. Then you come around the front of the town hall, and you've got Rexall Drugstore,
Bolters.
Boltus, they called it Boltus Pharmacy. Then you had county stores, and then you had Eagle Hall and the Milford Diner. And then on the west side of the oval, you had a series of small stores, and you had a barber shop, and you could get clipped in this town pretty easy because there was barber shops everywhere.
Jock's shoe store.
And the Jock Shoe Store, which is the building that's been under renovation for a year and a half. And
Milford Inn.
the Milford Inn, which was a stagecoach stop in the 1800s. And it was a rooming house and a lounge. And that burned in 1959, totally destroying the building. And that's where River House Cafe is now. And then you had the gas station there. And that covered the downtown area, but there was no shopping centers anywhere around here.
It was all around the oval.
Yeah.
We went to Bales School.
Is that
Yeah.
Scoot High School?
Yes,
That was our high school.
yes.
Yeah. Wow.
In fact, my class was the next to the last class to graduate from that school.
Really?
And our class was so big because Amherst and Mount Vernon came to high school that we were 79 graduating, and they didn't think we'd fit on the stage, so we had to go to the Armory for our graduation. We were so big. And then
What's that?
I graduated from there 70 years ago.
Really?
and then
Wow.
71.
the class of 61, which was the last class to graduate from Bales, they had their graduation at the new high school. It was done, but they had the graduation there, but they graduated from Bales. And then we all went to Garden Street Elementary, which was where the police station is now. They tore that down. But our mothers went to the brick school.
My favorite subject in high school was automotive. We had a automotive shop, and the least was English.
My favorite was math.
Come on.
Yep,
No way.
it was math.
Okay.
And my least favorite was science. I liked math because you didn't have to think, you just added. Added and subtracted.
You didn't have to think.
None.
Not one. Not one.
None.
My dad-
It was two-lane highway, it was a two-lane road. We had three big farms on the road.
Yeah.
We had a roller skating rink on this for after a while.
Oh, yeah.
And no businesses, no street light, nothing when we,
It's a straight shot.
it was.
Is it 40?
Now there's like 28 lights,
Yeah.
28 lights or something like that.
Yeah.
Technology has gotten way out of control for the old folks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when we were growing up, we had a phone that you lifted up and the operator would say, "Number, please." You didn't even
Nice.
dial it.
Yeah.
She lived on
I
13.
lived on Route
On
13.
13. Interesting bit about that was there was a law in Massachusetts that tractor trailers could not enter that state until 7 p.m. on a
8 o'clock.
Sunday.
8 o'clock.
And they would come out of, and the only way they could get to New York was travel 13 from Manchester. So they would
No
come through
highways.
on Sunday evening late, and they would go as far as Brookline. And it'd stop right there at the town line, state line. And they'd stop at the old railroad station and have coffee or whatever to eat. And then they would, when the clock turned, I guess it was 8 o'clock, when it turned, they would all go in convoy across into Massachusetts. And there'd be 30 or 40 trucks all lined up on 13.
I used to sit out on the out on my front lawn, because I lived on 13, waved all the truck drivers as they went by.
That is wild.
And that was back before 13 went straight up by Chapels. They used to be a little
Yeah, right.
winding.
Yeah, it was never like,
It went out a little where Army Road is now, and then it went up where Old Brookline Road is, and
Did you know that there were 35 quarries
Granite?
cutting granite and selling it all over the world? And on the back of a $10 bill, you'll see a picture of the Treasury building. And every pillar that's on that building came out of Lovejoy's Quarry here in Milford.
and we
no, I
and we used to swim in the quarries, because the quarries, when we were in the 50s, the quarries had closed. They weren't getting, most of them, all but a couple of quarries weren't workable anymore, and they filled up with water, and that's where we did a lot of our swimming. In the
They're
now
all
they're all-
privately owned now, so
Yeah.
you can't do things
Can't-
like that. But
yeah, my neighbor.
And Massachusetts guys
Okay.
came up a lot to swim in the quarries. Here it is.
he had a place called Here 'Tis. Now, that was a Chinese restaurant until just recently.
The China Star?
China Star Restaurant was where it was.
No way, that was a.
It was a regular
No, that
restaurant.
wasn't.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
regular restaurant,
yeah.
okay.
Just a regular restaurant.
Wow.
It was where you could go get hamburgers
But
for
it
quarter.
was geared to the time element, the 50s, when the Beatles, they played Beatles music, and they had all the cars would park there, and they'd go in, and
It was a big hangout.
the big hangout,
What
yeah.
about Cloud9?
Yeah, Cloud9, I went there a few times.
Mhm.
Yeah. The Beatles,
The Beatles.
Yep.
yeah. Big band, I'm a big band man.
He still listens to big band music.
I wondered.
I have a lot of
Have you ever
records.
seen Benny Goodman?
I
Yeah.
have them all.
Yeah?
All on 78s, and you probably don't even know what they are.
Oh, I used to have some.
78 records.
Oh, yeah?
I'm still playing them.
No, they were this
And
size.
they have the, you put it on the,
A record player.
Yeah, they have
45. What's that?
like vinyls.
They were vinyl. You're right.
They were vinyl,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
78s were also, they were like the thickest, they were the strongest, I thought.
Yeah, and they were like
they
this
were.
with just the one little hole in the middle.
Yeah.
I inherited my mother's collection when she passed, and
Do you still
I
have
mean,
it?
there was
He still listens to it.
still 200 or 300 records, big band music. I just play them every chance I get. When he got up on the stage on the Sullivan Show,
Ed Sullivan, yeah?
he shook his body, you know, and Jesus.
And our parents would go,
Latches Theater.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which is where Pasta Loft is now.
10 cents to go. Mhm. We didn't go very often because I lived out of
makes
town.
sense.
So I didn't get to go to the movies very often.
Saturday
Very frequent.
Saturday matinee was 12 cents.
12 cents?
12 cents. I know.
No, I don't.
I know, 12 cents.
I don't
And then it went up to
recall a
20.
favorite movie. Probably Lassie, something like that.
Classic. Did you have favorite movies?
John Wayne.
And unfortunately, they're still on.
Well, we thank you both for coming and giving us all this information and adding to our history
Our
of the town
pleasure.
of Milford. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our pleasure.